Welcome to another episode of Let's Parley, where we are here to encourage you to bet on yourself and pursue all that life has in store for you. I'm your host, Monty Taylor. Without further ado,
Let's parler.
what's going on, family? Wow, we are at episode 15 of this season. I feel very accomplished, halfway through my goal of hitting 30 episodes for the year of this podcast. And again, as always, I just want to thank everybody who has continued to tune in, whether this be your first time or whether you are a loyal follower of the podcast and watcher or listener. Just want to say I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen. And my biggest hope out of this is that you are encouraged, in whatever way possible in your life with whatever you're going through or whatever you're looking to understand. But more importantly, I just hope that you're getting some sort of value out of this experience. So just wanted to say thank you. And as much feedback as you guys can share, whether it be in the comments or whether you message me directly. My family does a great job of this. Shout out to my little brother. His birthday was this past week and just turned 27. It's crazy to think that, just how fast time flies. But he is someone who has often given me a lot of constructive feedback and just ideas. And he's just a well of different ideas. And both of my parents have also helped me out with this as well, too. So, I just really appreciate them and wanted to shout them out. But yeah, for this episode, as I've been kind of on this trend, I want to continue to stay on this trend, which is of just being myself and just sharing some of the things that I have learned and realized throughout the past week since the last time that I checked in with you, provide some updates. But more importantly, I just want to share something that may be helpful for you. And I think the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today was just the power of the people that you have in your circle, because I've found recently that I would slip into the stages of, feeling like I could handle it all on my own or saying that I got this. Very typical male response to a problem, especially something that we're dealing with that not a lot of people may know about or may notice on their own time. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of share maybe some experiences that I've had recently that I found to be very helpful on that front. But just in general, I think maybe you can relate to this, that there's like different periods of your life where you could be just a little bit off. You can be a little bit in a funk. And I've found that this happens plenty of time throughout my life. And it just at least happens like once or twice a year for me is what I've noticed. And it comes in these weird times and these weird periods. And I think something like that kind of happened for me recently, where I felt like I was a little bit in a funk. And I've just to give you some context of the situation, like I live by myself, I work from home. So a lot of my connectivity with people is via my laptop and a computer screen or over the phone or just FaceTime, something like that. And it's not a lot of like human to human interaction unless I'm invited to something or I kind of force myself to be outside or, go to the gym, perhaps make a new friend or something. And then on top of that, some more context for me, for you, I should say, for me in my situation, I've grown up mostly as an only child, right? So like for me, I've always had, for the most part, my own room, my own bathroom, and I'm thankful for my mom and thankful for my parents just in general providing me that sort of upbringing. But what I've realized is that I have been very used to being by myself and self-healing or, maybe self-medicating or whatever it is that I feel like I could do to, get past the situation. I'll do it typically on my own. And I'm not someone who likes to raise my hand. And I think most guys maybe just don't like doing this in general, but we don't really seek a lot of pity, or I personally don't like to seek pity. I don't like when people feel bad for me or anything like that. Like, I'd much rather be helping someone and trying to lift somebody else up than uh, asking somebody else for help and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, that's something that I've just observed about myself. And I think also growing up with my own space a lot of my life has led me to that as well too. And I've also been living on my own for, shoot, I think I moved out of my mom's place when I was 24, going on 25. Um, yeah, yeah. I think I had right before I turned 25. So it's been over 5 years that I've been living in my own space as well too. And yeah, I think I say all this to say that I'm a person that tends to want to figure things out on my own and to have everything kind of in my own bubble. And I've also learned that uh, that could be a very dangerous thing as well too, because if I'm someone who doesn't like share or open up or talk about whatever it is that may be on my mind or what I'm struggling with and all that sort of stuff, then it could be a very like isolating feeling. You can feel very lonely. The other thing I'll add on top of this is that, I've chosen to live the life of an entrepreneur. And there's not a lot of people who can really identify with that experience. Now, granted, there's plenty of people who are starting businesses, side hustles, and getting into that maybe more today than ever before. But it's still not the majority of people who can empathize with that experience. Most folks are going into work, whether it be an office or working for a company, or maybe doing like some sort of contract work perhaps, and having that sort of stable income and stable routine. And yeah, most people have that. So I say all this to say that, I've kind of, one, from my life's experience, and then also maybe just naturally, I positioned myself to kind of be a bit of a lone wolf in my day-to-day life. And there's a lot of that time where I thrive and I feel really good. I'm in control of, my time. There's nothing coming in to really disturb me other than a notification on my phone or a phone call. But I've even set up, boundaries on that. I have like a work setting that is essentially a do not disturb outside of a handful of contacts who I get messages from. Or I, put my phone on do not disturb, or I have my phone on sleep mode. So I have all sorts of ways of avoiding human contact as much as I possibly can to stay focused. Because that's what I've always felt I needed in order to be productive and to just make progress in whatever I was working towards. And yeah, I've just come to realize that that could be a very dangerous territory, a very slippery slope. And I've also realized that may be the reason why these funks come about in the first place, is because I'm going through the day to day by myself and probably having things that I need to talk to someone about. And it kind of just bounces, off of the walls of my head and stays there and maybe festers into something else. And I've just realized that not only having, and don't get me wrong, y'all, I have people to talk to, right? I open up to my parents, my brother, friends about plenty. But ever since the pandemic, a lot of people may be feeling this, but there's a huge wave of people kind of isolating themselves, and especially from human to human interaction, like in person, not just over a call and seeing someone on a screen, but actually feeling someone's presence in person and being able to have a conversation with someone. And there's so much that I think is lost in the digital communication that happens and really allows for more connection in person. One, I mean, there's just the fact that you and another person are sharing time with one another. Two, you have a lot more data and information that you can collect while communicating in person versus over, a Zoom call, right? Like you're able to see more of someone's body and see if they're fidgeting or see and observe just more about the person that you're talking to and read them a bit more. So there's all those sorts of things that are missing from a conversation when you're doing it strictly virtual versus, doing it in person. And, I don't have any scripture that I probably should have, called out some scripture or looked into some scripture for this episode. But I have read within the Bible how important it is for us to be in relationship, not only with God, but with our fellow neighbor and to love thy fellow neighbor. Even within Genesis, God said it was not good for man to be alone. And I've just realized that in my efforts to be as productive as I possibly can and to stay on top of things within my business or to manage people that I've hired on to do certain work within my business, I've erred a lot more towards the side of staying hyper productive, hustle culture and just work, and not a lot of balance between that during the week at least. And the beautiful part is that I took that risk to go into, being an entrepreneur and doing this full time so that I could have that flexibility. But at the same time, it's a hard balance to strike between feeling like you're locked in, you're doing everything you need to do versus feeling like you're not doing anything to move your business forward or to maintain your business, and find that balance somewhere in between. That's still something that I continue to struggle with to this day. And it's interesting. And I know that this is like a learning period, and I'm supposed to get and learn whatever God is presenting to me in this moment, and take that into the next phase of my life so that I can become the man that I'm supposed to be. But in the moment, it's still like you're not sure. You're trying to understand. You're trying to figure things out. And I think the biggest thing that I realize is that I need people. I need to interact with people consistently. I don't find it all that much more productive to just stay inside. What happens is that I just start shifting some of that social time that could be with, a friend or hanging out or meeting new people. I'll shift that towards, the other thing, which could be social media and doom scrolling, being on TikTok or Instagram, or maybe it's YouTube, whatever your entertainment source of choice. I'll venture into that instead. And it'll happen so easily. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this, but I'm sure everybody has. Like, you could just open up a social media app and then an hour or two can go by so quick. And you're like, where did the time just go? And instead of, it being maybe cable TV or things where you have to actively, seek the entertainment, but put in a bit more work in order to get there. Like, you have to go to your living room, turn on the TV, search for something. Whereas with your phone, it's so easy to just open it or get a message or a notification that forces you to see that something's happening within this app. Go check it out. And then you go right back into that thing. So yeah, I've just found that that it could be a very slippery slope when I'm by myself and I'm continuing to just block myself off from human interaction in an effort to remain productive and hustle and get after whatever I'm getting after. And and that can serve its purpose for a certain amount of time. That's probably what I've been doing for the majority of this year. Minus some time where I've seen family here and there and hung out with friends, but that's been the majority of my time. And I think what I feel like God is challenging me with right now is finding a way to actively seek those opportunities to connect with people and be the one that's planning it, which is something that I'm pretty terrible at, and something that I'm growing in. I'll say I'm not terrible at. I'm growing in that area, and to be the one who's initiating, and that's just something that had never really been my tendency in the past. I've always been the one who's like been invited to something, and then I'll go. And there's like this weird sense of like maybe rejection that I feel if I were to initiate something and someone were to be busy or say no. It's like, oh, I rarely do this, and they said no, I'm never doing this again. Maybe there's like a little sensitivity there for me, but what I've found and what I believe is happening is that I'm being challenged to do more of that, to initiate and to connect more with friends, family, and especially friends in person, in the Austin area, and connect with people more. And I just realized that this past week that, I'm too much isolation, need to get out, need to communicate with people, need to build community. And I just realized how important that is, because I think what I saw is I started shifting towards, spending time doing things that made me feel like I was getting that sense of connection. Like social media, you have a bunch of your friends who you see posting, or the algorithm is pushing whatever is entertaining to you, and it makes you feel like you're connected. But it is a false connection, because you're not really speaking to someone. You can put it down or put it away. Whereas like when you have a person in front of you, you're forced to, interact and do that for a set period of time. So that's something that I've just come to learn and reflect on this past week, and nothing crazy. It's not like a major deal, but I do think it is important. And I think that's why, there's power in finding maybe a home church or a community of people who are like-minded, who have similar core values and beliefs. And that's what I've just found to be, my big takeaway from this past week. And I also found that when I was able to, talk to a friend about this and hash out some of my thoughts and my feelings, it was like, it became so much more clear. Whereas if I didn't have that conversation with a friend, I felt like I probably would have just, like stuck in that cycle. I would have stayed in that cycle, I should say, stayed stuck in the cycle, and just would have allowed it to continue to fester in my mind, as opposed to being able to speak about it, put it through the filter of like my words, and hear myself talking about it and be like, actually that doesn't make sense. And I've found that I make more sense of things when I speak to someone about it, as opposed to just not saying anything and allowing the thoughts to run in my head. And I just found that to be the lesson that I had to learn this past weekend. But in other news, I do want to share some updates and maybe some funny stuff that, well, it's not really funny to me because I'm hurting. But I have been in a period of my training where I'd like to be more functional, but also regain some of that athleticism and confidence in my athleticism. I have lifted I've had the same sort of lifting regimen for the most part ever since I really started back when the pandemic rolled through. Excuse me, I had to burp. Oh my God, that coffee. But yeah, I've had the same lifting regimen ever since I've started for the most part. I typically lift 4 to 5 days a week, and I'm doing just about the same splits. I've definitely mixed up my workouts and my exercises within that split, but it hasn't been anything too dynamic, anything too athletic. I remember when I was living in LA, I was recording content and doing collabs that required me to be a little bit more active with my movements and such, and that I think helped, right? But it wasn't as if like I was training to do those things. I was just doing them for the content, and then just getting better at it with time. I'd say now though, I've um I've gotten a strong desire to just feel a lot more functional, because I do feel like a bit stiff and just rigid. And the great part is like, I'm the strongest I've ever been. I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been consistently over the course of the year. And I feel great, like as far as how I feel looking in the mirror and all of that. But when I'm actually doing things, or when I feel like I'm challenged to do something, it always feels like, if I really try too hard, I might hurt myself. And that's what happened this past week for me. It actually happened 2 weeks ago. I decided to go on the track and hit some sprints. I used to run track in high school. My coach was an Olympic gold medalist in the 4x4, and he knew what he was talking about. Yeah, he had us doing some pretty crazy workouts, especially some ab routines and such. But anyway, I just missed that. Like I felt like, man, I would love to feel like I'm fast, or that I can, you know, hit a short burst of movement and, do it efficiently and quickly. So I decided to hit the track and do some sprints. I committed to doing like 5 100-meter sprints and then seeing how I'd go from there, how I'd feel. And 2 weeks ago, I went to the track by myself, plenty hydrated, had a pre-workout snack as well too, some bananas for potassium, just to, keep my electrolytes high, make sure I don't cramp up, all that. And yeah, some fruit, whatever. And I go, everything's feeling great. I probably did about like 75% effort through most of the sprints. And then progressively, it just felt fun. I was like, I want to just run as fast as I possibly can for 100 meters. And 100 meters is like the perfect length for me, because anything past maybe 200 meters, that's when, my speed starts to taper off. So I felt great. And on the last sprint, I think I got up to like 10 sprints, and I was like, all right, this will be the last one, and then I'll just see how my body feels, whether I want to do some more. I decided to go all out on the last sprint, and 20 meters in, I feel something tight in my hamstring, and I'm just like, see, I did too much. I did way too much, way too soon, and, my body's letting me know that, hey, you gotta chill out, bro. You ain't done sprints in years, and you just expect me to function normally after you do them out of nowhere with no warning. Nope. Anyway, I warmed up and everything, but still my hamstring got tight, and I decided to retire for that day. And the thing was, it wasn't like a crazy pain or anything like that. I felt it lingering for a bit, and definitely felt that tightness and that soreness. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a week off where I'm not doing sprints, and then I'll come back the next week. I'll hit sprints again, but I'll just be a little bit more conscious of the pace that I'm going and the percentage of effort that I'm exerting. So this past week, I decided to hit some sprints with one of my boys out here in Austin. And I made sure to warm up thoroughly. Again, I got plenty of hydration beforehand. I, made sure to get my electrolytes, ate some fruit and all that sort of stuff. Warmed up very nicely, did way more than what I did the first time, and felt really good, going into it. And I even told my boy, I was like, hey man, let's go 50%, then 75, and maybe work ourselves up to 100. And I lie to you not, it happened the same exact way, where the entire workout felt great. And I guess, you know, there were other people on the track, and then also you're running with somebody, so you get that competitive drive to want to run faster. And yeah, it was literally the 10th 100-meter sprint, and same thing. I just started running, and I went 100% because I wanted to just felt like Flash. I was like, ooh, I'm fast. I'm running fast, you know. And then 50 meters in, my left hamstring gets super tight. And it actually felt worse on my left than it did on my right when it originally happened 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh, here we go again, you know. So anyway, I feel like this is a side lesson that I've had to learn for myself, is that, all right, you know, as much as you want to feel athletic again, Monty, take your time in getting there. You can't just get up and run as fast as you can 10 times and think that your body isn't going to, you know, let you know that you haven't done this in a while. So yeah, I've just had to learn and exercise some patience on that front. So now my left hamstring is tight. It's been about a day and a half since I ran, and you know, I'm walking with like a slight limp, and it is, yeah. I was gonna say something wild, but it ain't a walk that I'm doing on purpose. So yeah, I've just realized, and I think I'm just sharing this to say that, you know, take your time with whatever it is that you're getting into, whether it be like your fitness routine. Like, I preach this to my clients all the time, and yet I've had to preach it to myself over and over again, which is, you know, small baby steps, incremental progress is what's going to make your efforts sustainable. And I think when it came to running these sprints and wanting to feel more athletic and powerful, I have just gone 0 to 100, and now I'm reaping the consequences of those decisions. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. Hopefully that helps. I don't think that I came in thinking about like it being like a whole you know, sermon that I was going to give you, but I've just realized that, you know, it's better to take your time with stuff and not try to rush into things. And I feel like that's a lesson I've had to learn in many aspects of my life: dating, business, my fitness, all this sort of stuff. So the principles remain true no matter what the endeavor. But I'm gonna close off right there. I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with ending this episode with that. When it comes to any other updates, I am still working on a lot of back-end work with my Fit and Faith community, so I'm excited to launch that soon, but I've just realized that there's other things that come up as you continue to work on these things, especially when you're doing something for the first time. So stay tuned for the Fit and Faith community. However, if you're looking to work with a faith-based fitness coach, I would love to possibly connect with you and see what that looks like as far as helping you hit your fitness goals and allowing God to be a part of that process. So if you're interested in the Fit and Faith one-on-one coaching program, I always provide the link to apply for fitness coaching in the description of the podcast. So feel free to tap in there. Other than that, y'all, this is all that I have for today. I hope that this has been encouraging for you, and that you have been encouraged to bet on yourself and pursue all that life has in store for you. I'm your host, Monty Taylor, and yet again, I thank you for listening to another episode. Take care. God bless.